With a quickening decline of church attendance all across civilized nations, many religious folk believe we are living in the final days, or the end times, just before Jesus returns to destroy everything. Ironically, the same sentiment has existed for nearly 2,000 years now. The truth is most likely a very different story. Jesus may never return from the clouds with the 4 horsemen and a legion of angels, but indeed it is inevitable that an advancing humanity will see the end of Bronze Age belief systems, and we now stand at that unique point in history to witness the transformation. Our younger and modernizing societies can no longer swallow magical or supernatural beliefs, and we call them the nones. Furthermore, many of those who once held religious convictions are abandoning them in record numbers. Since 1990, the nones have exploded onto American society. At the current rates, they will soon become a majority. America is following the secular path of Europe, Canada, Australia, Japan, New Zealand, among many other modernizing places. The secular age has arrived, and most of us welcome it with a sense of relief. Even a majority of Christians have adapted to or even adopted a new secular world, and persist with faith as a hardly relevant aspect of their life. After all, it is not difficult to recognize how these religious beliefs do little to nothing for you, and certainly doesn't make you wiser or a better person, which may have a lot to do with why people are no longer subscribing to a church pew. With the recent molestations of young children, perversion, and rape hitting home to both the Catholic and Protestant churches, young people might find these sacred hallways a bit creepy. The fundamentalist hostility toward the gay communities has also soured the more tolerant-minded Americans. Most young people today don't hate on gay folks, and really don't even see it as an issue whatsoever, while it remains a sore spot only for those who cling to the religious doctrine that a gay person stands against God. Ironically, the Church's long-held claim on moral superiority is crumbling. We now know that going to church is not more likely to produce better people, or even a more stable family. Most of the kids growing up in religious households have seen their parents divorce at the same rate as everyone else. When the religious institutions continue to make claim on moral superiority, it begins to stink of hypocrisy. Regardless, a wider variety of explanations are notable for the decline of religion, perhaps most predominant being that we have entered into the information age. The Internet opens up a wide array of science, debates, and critical thinking that undercuts ancient Bronze Age beliefs, and when placed against opposition, the truth will always either rise or fall. Within this environment of opposition, Christianity is not rising. It is plummeting quickly. And so too will Islam when those countries modernize and open themselves up to a free exchange of ideas. Furthermore, quacky religious rituals like healings, oils, burning sage, eating crackers, or talking in tongues tend to scare normal people straight. In the 21st century, it is increasingly difficult to believe in invisible gods, devils, heavens, hells, angels, demons, virgin births, resurrections, miracles, messiahs, prophecies, faith healings, visions, incarnations, etc., etc. The PRRI, a public religion research institute, confirms the foremost reason young people give for leaving religion is they stopped believing miraculous church dogmas. For roughly 2 decades, mainline Protestant denominations have progressively addressed this issue, with university-educated ministers moving towards avoiding the supernatural stories in the Bible, and even the doctrine of hell, and instead preach only the compassion of Christ. But ignoring the supernatural, doomsdayers, or the fires of hell has not helped. The main line has collapsed so badly it is referred to as flatline Protestantism. It is fading despite its efforts to modernize. Catholicism and evangelicalism are now in the same death spiral. 1/10 of U.S. adults today are ex-Catholics. The Southern Baptist Convention lost 200,000 members in 2014 and 200,000 more the next year. That age-old religious stigma that non-religious people are bad or hold no accountability for their actions and/or are untrustworthy has vanished. In fact, the evidence is in plain sight. Studies have been continuously proving that non-religious societies are creating better realities. A shocking study conducted by the University of Chicago, published in the journal Current Biology, looked at 1,170 children between the ages of 5 and 12 in 6 countries: Canada, China, Jordan, Turkey, USA, and South Africa, examining child empathy and sensitivity to justice. The study found that family religious identification decreases children's altruistic behaviors, and children from religious households are harsher in their punitive tendencies. Essentially, children raised in non-religious households are kinder and more altruistic than those raised with religion. Professor Gene Desity, who led the study, said, "Kids from atheist and non-religious families were, in fact, more generous. This certainly does not mean that religious children are not good people, but it does imply that a non-religious world might just be better than any previous time known to humanity. And we are just now beginning to witness this as being true." The United Nations 2011 Global Study on Homicide revealed that the 10 nations with the highest homicide rates are among the most religious nations in the world. Of the nations with the lowest homicide rates, nearly all are predominantly secular, with 7 ranking among the least religious nations, such as Sweden, Japan, Norway, and the Netherlands. According to the Vision of Humanity, which publishes an annual Global Peace Index, each of the 10 safest and most peaceful nations in the world is also among the most secular. However, when tragedy strikes in America, such as a school shooting, the religious community will immediately blame it on secularism. In the aftermath of the shooting at Umpqua Community College, Fox host Bill O'Reilly cited a weakening religion as the culprit. This is clearly a knee-jerk response. The evidence should be properly analyzed before such a statement is ever made, especially on primetime news. Likewise, Mike Huckabee offered similar sentiments after the 2012 shooting in Newtown, Connecticut, blaming the violence on the removal of God from our schools. If it is true that when belief in God weakens, societal well-being diminishes, then we should see abundant evidence for this, but we don't. In fact, we see the opposite. Societies today where faith in God is strong and religious participation is high have the highest violent crime rates, while societies in which faith and church attendance are lowest harbor less violent crime. The numbers are in. We can view these statistics as factual. Secularized countries fare the best in terms of crime rates, prosperity, equality, freedom, democracy, women's rights, human rights, educational attainment, and even life expectancy. Clearly, school shootings are the result of some other psychological issue, having nothing to do with the decline of religion or a belief in a God. Professor Stephen Law of the University of London stated, "If a decline in religiosity were the primary cause of social ills, then we would expect all countries that have the greatest decline of religion to have the most serious problems, when in fact, the opposite is true." According to the latest study from the Pew Research Center, within the United States, the 10 states that report the highest levels of belief in God are Louisiana, Arkansas, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Oklahoma. The 10 states with the lowest levels of belief in God are Maine, Vermont, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, New York, Alaska, Oregon, and California. And as is the case all across the world, when it comes to every standard measure of societal health, including homicide rates, the least religious states are much better off than the most faithful. Consider child abuse fatality rates. Highly religious Mississippi is twice that of highly secular New Hampshire, and highly religious Kentucky is 4 times higher than highly secular Oregon. Future humanity might look back on Christianity and see clearly how this concept of being forgiven for all of your crimes and behavior might have played a large role in the laziness of moral accountability. Christianity might, in fact, provide a safe haven for moral inferiority and a laziness towards self-improvement, as Christians constantly reassure themselves they are forgiven, won't be held accountable. This world is trash, and a better world is coming. Such religious teachings may not be an ideal theology for human wellness. Of course, peace, prosperity, and overall goodness are undoubtedly caused by multiple factors other than just religion or the lack thereof. But that being said, it is very clear that a strong or increased presence of secularism isn't the damaging threat to society in which the faithful continually claim it to be. Phil Zuckerman of Pitzer College analyzed data comparing Bible Belt states. He states murder rates are higher in areas where belief in God is widespread. He also states, of the top 50 safest cities in the world, nearly all are in relatively non-religious countries. Zuckerman also points out that atheists are very much underrepresented in the American prison population, only 0.2%. Felons are overwhelmingly religious. He also cites a 1999 Barna study that finds that atheists and agnostics actually have lower divorce rates than religious Americans. He also cites another study in Canada that found conservative Christian women experienced higher rates of domestic violence than non-religious women. Zuckerman, citing numerous studies, shows that atheists and agnostics, when compared to religious people, are actually less likely to be nationalistic, racist, anti-Semitic, dogmatic, ethnocentric, or authoritarian. He also noted that secularism also correlated to higher education levels. Everything we once thought about religion is changing in light of credible analytics. So be it, the religious will always revert back to that age-old question, why are we here? And that religion provides us with this sense of purpose, and that without it, humanity will slip into chaos. As somebody who has gone through the process of being religious to non-religious, I now realize how shallow such statements truly are. Life remains extremely precious and valuable, and simply uttering the words, "I don't know," does not change any sense of purpose. In fact, admitting you don't know what you can't know is profoundly honest and liberating. Not knowing all of the answers has not altered any sense of purpose, nor has it translated into a lack of empathy. I am often encountered with the religious who ask me, if you don't believe in God, then what keeps you from murdering, plundering, or raping? Such a statement only causes me to wonder, what kind of a masked, evil person am I dealing with here? A lack of belief in God in no way produces a sense that I would enact harm on others for my own self-pleasure or gain. And the science of social well-being is backing me up on this. If you harbor a desire to hurt others, then you have a psychological issue much deeper than a God belief or lack of. Furthermore, it is not that I lack a belief in God. I simply do not know of one. The Church's general theology that Earth, or the entire universe, is created only for man, and serves as some kind of testing place to screen humans for a future heaven or hell, is a silly concept with no legitimate evidence of any sort, and neither are we buying such rhetoric anymore. In 2016, National Geographic bannered a story titled, "The World's Newest Major Religion: No Religion." The article says there have long been predictions that religion would fade from relevancy as the world modernizes. But all the recent surveys are finding that it's happening startlingly fast. The Great Evangelical Recession is a book written by a megachurch pastor, John Dickerson, who warned that evangelicalism as we knew it in the 20th century is disintegrating. He said a majority of young people raised as evangelicals are quitting church. In 2017, America's largest religious bookstore chain, the 85-year-old Family Christian, closed its 240 stores and laid off its 3,000 workers, stating that declining sales ended its business. It can no longer be argued. Christianity is losing its 2,000-year-old reign over humanity. Oddly enough, some people are very set in their ways and are completely immune to the Enlightenment. They will not accept change or embrace truth if it presents itself as an opposition to their long-held or cherished beliefs. But such psychological walls cannot stop a world from changing around them, because opposition, when allowed freedom, will knock on every single door. Truth loves to shine through. It just needs a crack. And let us be reminded, any person or organization that would claim to hold truth should never despise opposition. Opposition is the opportunity to prove yourself. If you are unable to do so, perhaps you need to consider how credible your truth claims are. And to harbor any dislike for opposition is suspicious towards your case, to say the least. Keep the pressure on, my friends. And stay strong and wise.
I don't believe in masquerades. I don't believe that you're okay. I don't believe that God will save. Only you can solve your problems. I don't care what they sold you.